I've been analyzing retirement data for a long time, and I keep noticing something that nobody in this space wants to say out loud. The standard retirement checklist was written for a country that no longer exists. Think about it. Most of the advice you hear is built on one assumption, that if you saved consistently, paid off your house, and worked long enough, you'd be fine. That was reasonable advice 20 years ago. But here's what's changed. The average Canadian home in 1995 cost roughly $150,000. Today, in most major cities, that same home costs over $1 million. That's not inflation. That's a structural transformation of wealth in this country. And that transformation has a direct consequence for retirement. The people who bought early, they have equity. The people who bought late or never could, they're renting into their 60s. A $2,400 monthly rent doesn't disappear when you stop working. It follows you into retirement. Most people focus on the savings number, but the real question is, savings relative to what? Relative to what life actually costs where you live. That's a very different calculation. Now, I want to be careful here, because I'm not here to alarm you. I've spent decades watching people navigate this. And most of the fear people carry is based on the wrong information. So let me walk you through what I actually look at. Not a checklist of feelings. A set of honest, structural questions. Questions that account for where Canada actually is in 2025. The first question I ask is simple, but most people skip it. What is your actual monthly cost of living right now? Not what you spend. What it actually costs to maintain your current standard of life. Most people underestimate this by 20 to 30%. They forget property taxes. They forget dental, vision, and drug costs after employer benefits disappear. They forget that travel, hobbies, and family visits cost real money. And this is where the story changes. Because once you have that real number, you can work backwards to what you actually need. The government tells you the average Canadian retiree lives on around $32,000 a year. That number is technically accurate. It is also profoundly misleading, because that average includes people with paid-off homes in rural communities, people with defined benefit pensions from the public sector, and people who simply stopped spending because they ran out of money. That is not a retirement plan. That is financial exhaustion being measured as a statistic. Over the years, I've noticed something interesting. The people who retire well don't obsess over a magic number. They obsess over their cost structure. They ask themselves a different question. Not, do I have enough, but, have I built a life that is genuinely affordable on a fixed income? Those are two very different questions. Now let's talk about the income side. Canada does offer some foundational support. CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, averages around $800 a month for most retirees. Old age security adds roughly $700 more. That's approximately $1,500 per month from government sources. If you live in Vancouver or Toronto, that covers utilities and groceries. Maybe. On a good month. At first glance, that may seem like a small gap, but that gap, between $1,500 and your real cost of living, is entirely your responsibility to fill. From savings, from a pension, from part-time work, or from some combination. Here's the part that caught my attention when I first started running these numbers. Most middle-class Canadians have between $200,000 and $400,000 saved by retirement. Using a conservative 4% withdrawal rate, that produces between $8,000 and $16,000 per year. Add that to your CPP and OAS. You're looking at a total retirement income of roughly $24,000 to $32,000 per year, before tax. Now ask yourself honestly, can you live the retirement you imagined on $2,000 to $2,600 a month? In the city you currently live in, with the health costs that tend to arrive in your 60s and 70s? Most people, when they actually run that number, feel something shift, not panic. Something quieter and more serious than panic. The recognition that they need a plan, not a checklist. And here's what I want you to take from this. This is not a reason to give up. It is a reason to get specific. Specific people who make specific plans retire. The real question isn't whether you want to retire. The real question is whether the life you've built can support retirement, honestly. And if it can't yet, what exactly needs to change? That is a question worth sitting with. Not because the answer is frightening, but because the answer is actionable. And that's the difference between anxiety and clarity. Clarity is what I want to leave you with today.